Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Chris Weidenbar, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Commander Josh Clifford. We are honoured to acknowledge General Shantha Kottagoda, Secretary of Defence, Sri Lanka, Lieutenant General John Thompson, Commander, Space and Missiles Systems Centre, United States of America, Major General Young Kwan Ryu from the Republic of Korea Armed Forces, and the accompanying delegations. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and its Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors and by students on behalf of the following schools. From Queensland, Our Lady Help of Christians Catholic Primary School, Hendra, and All Saints Primary School, Albany Creek. And from Victoria, the Ashwood School. I now invite all who are able to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Thank you. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway lands. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Wilfred Campbell Bailey. Wilfred Bailey was born in 1888 in Tamworth, New South Wales, the son of Robert and Emily Bailey. He grew up in Tamworth and on leaving school became a farm labourer in the district. In October 1916, Bailey enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force at Menangle Park Camp near Sydney. When he enlisted, Australia was in the midst of a plebiscite about allowing conscription for overseas service. While the plebiscite was ultimately unsuccessful, the increased publicity of the campaigns for and against conscription might have influenced Bailey's decision to enlist. He joined the reinforcements for the 29th Infantry Battalion the following month and left Australia on the transport ship Afrique bound for England. Arriving in early January, he undertook 2 months of training in England before sailing to France in mid-March. During 1916, German forces had suffered heavy losses on the Somme sector of the Western Front in northern France. At the end of winter in 1917, the German forces in France made a deliberate withdrawal from their front lines to a strongly defended position called the Siegfried Line. Known as the Hindenburg Line to the British, this position allowed the Germans to shorten their line and concentrate their forces. Discovering that the Germans had retreated, Australian and British forces moved forward and occupied several French towns and villages during March 1917. One of these was a small village of Bametz, which was held by the men of the 29th Battalion when Bailey joined the unit in France. During their withdrawal, the Germans made defensive stands at selected points. Early on the morning of the 23rd of March 1917, German forces attacked Bametz and Bailey was killed in the fighting. He was 28 years old and had been with his unit in the field for a single day. Bailey was buried at Bametz Crossroads Cemetery in France, alongside more than 250 soldiers of the First World War. By a strange twist of fate, Bailey's younger brother, Corporal Vivian Robert Bailey, was killed exactly a year later, on the 23rd of March, 1918. Private Wilfred Campbell Bailey is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Wilfred Campbell Bailey, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. we leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.